Hoi, welcome ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. Welcome to Going Dutch, Hanze podcast, where we dive into all things Dutch, everything from student life and stereotypes to frat culture and beyond. We're your hosts, Daria and Natasha, and we're here every other week to explore Dutch student life in Groningen and uncover what the authentic Dutch experience is really like.
We're here to share a fresh take on Dutch culture through the eyes of international. In today's episode, we want to learn more about the Dutch education system. There are as many experiences with education as there are students, but it can be particularly hard to understand what's going on if you just start in the Netherlands as a university student. We want to learn what goes into picking between a HAVO or a VWO degree, what even are those in the first place, and if there's any other choices that Dutch people have to choose from.
Precisely. I think as international students, part of the Dutch education system, there's much to know and learn. And in addition to the different types of tertiary education, we'll also be discussing why the Dutch start working at such a young age, and how this fosters both independence and financial awareness pretty early on. Plus, we'll also tackle the culture surrounding study associations and their role in creating a sense of community and support among Dutch students.
We're joined today by the lovely Lila, who will help us get our heads around all this, and maybe will tell us a bit more about her experience. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for being here with us today, Lila. Before we dive into the questions we have for you, which is, pretty much, could you briefly explain what the structure of the Dutch education system is like?
So from middle school on, you can go into three different routes. Two of them are more practically oriented. It prepares you for the job market in a specific way. And then you have the university, which is VO, which means scientific education. And it's more abstract or theoretical, and it can prepare you for a larger range of jobs. So that is the main difference between the three. So you have MBO, which is middelbaar beroepsonderwijs. I'm starting to talk with an English accent. And you can get there, it's the fastest route. So if you take, for example, you can get there with any kind of profile from the middelbare school, so from the secondary school, high school onwards. And then you have HBO, which is here at Hanze, which you can get into if you have HAVO or VWO, which is 5 or 6 years in secondary school. And then you have university, so VO.
And from then on, the world's your oyster?
Yes.
Okay, no O anymore.
No O, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, no, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about how your journey looked like?
Yeah, so my journey was a little bit all over the place, because it is very nice if you already know what you want to get into or what is your specific skill set and where it can land you. But mine was a little bit more broad. And I did HAVO, so I couldn't get straight into university. And I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do, so I first started out at Hanze. But I had some issues with how specific it was and the way that you are learning here, all different kinds of materials. Because they prepare you in a very practical way. Also still theoretical, but they tell you in a way what you should do or how you should do it and how things are done and how you can improve what is already existent. And I was more interested in asking questions like why. So ultimately I made the switch, which was a bit scary because I already made some switches here and there at the Hanze, to go to university and risk it in a way, but it turned out very well. And then I got into media studies there, and I met Daria in for my first day in class. So that is how my experience has been. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I love that you took risks and you kept kind of like changing and just going after what you want. I think that's like commendable. But like in general, what age do like Dutchies have to kind of know which path they want to follow if they want to go straight into university? Or like, which grade?
So in primary school, you already at the end, you get Cito toets, which will determine alongside your performances in class, which level you can get into. Now, the first year of secondary school is mostly, it's not, you're not immediately stuck to one level, but you get into a class and that is either at the higher level or a bit lower. And after your performance, then you will get put into one of the classes. So either VWO or HAVO or VMBO. And from there onwards, it's already not limited, but it's already pushing you in some sort of direction because you already are not able to go to university anymore. Or maybe you are, but you really want to take a different route and you're much more interested in practical studies. So in that way, it can kind of push you towards some sort of expectancy from the start when you're around 12 or 13 years old. For example, my nieces, they also have this pressure now that they are doing VWO to get into university because it's what's expected of them, but they might have some other preferences for themselves personally. So,
and are there any kind of intermediate steps that you can take to switch from one thing to another? Because that makes me think of the pre-master, right?
Yes.
If you want to switch from one field to another.
Yeah. So if you want to switch from HBO to VO to the university, after your bachelor's, you can get the pre-master. And there is something similar in high school as well. Before you get into university, you have the opportunity to take 2 extra years, I believe it is, to get the higher level. So if you want to go from HAVO to VWO, you can still get into other classes. But it depends on your score. If you can do that, you have to have a high grade.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And which one would you say is like more common?
More common?
Yeah. Is there one that's more common, or does it really depend on like the individual?
You mean what kind of level they are at secondary
or like
school?
which education would they go into?
I believe that HAVO, the one in the middle, is the most common. Okay. I also believe that HBOs like Hanze have more students overall. But I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the statistics.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And just out of curiosity, do Dutch students ever think of studying abroad? Because obviously Natasha and I as internationals, you know, that's a decision we made to study abroad either for the master's or for the bachelor. And I don't really see Dutch people deciding to do an entire degree abroad. I see, you know, they stay here, they do a great semester abroad for their program maybe, and then come back.
Yeah.
Is that a decision that you ever have thought about?
Well, it is a good question because I honestly don't know any people, I think personally, who have decided to do their entire studies abroad. It is almost automatic that you think that you will be studying in the Netherlands. It also because it is such a good, you get recommended for good jobs afterwards. It's good level, but it's and you have the opportunity, of course, to go abroad for half a year, for a semester. But I'm not sure why apart from that, the reason is that people like to stay here. Maybe it's that they are looking forward to the culture of student life that they have already seen from a young age. I know for me, that was definitely the case because I always saw the students, you know, playing around in costumes and having fun on the streets in broad daylight. And I was like, they're just big kids. I want to do that as well. So I was always looking forward to having that experience. So maybe being exposed to the student life in general also adds to that, I believe. Yeah.
That's very valid. And I mean, the education here is pretty good, and that's why we're here from all over the world.
Good. Yeah, no complaints, honestly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that like Dutchies would prefer to stay in their own country, and that reason like is valid as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I think something we noticed, I think like all students, Dutch or not, can relate to the fact that the transition from high school to university can be a bit of shock to the system. You know, moving out, acclimatizing to a new environment, making new friends, it can be all a little overwhelming. But what did this transition look like for you, Lila?
Well, for me, it was a little bit different, but you are right. It is a bit overwhelming. I think maybe because it is overwhelming, I chose to stay in the town that I grew up in. And also because it is such a great city for students. I was lucky in that way that I could just stay home where my mother lives, and I wanted to stay close to her as well. So for me, it hasn't been that much of a transition. I also moved out pretty young before I got my HAVO degree. So that also, changes things. So it wasn't that much of how you say it, like a
drastic change.
Yeah, a drastic change all of a sudden. And I was also exposed to the nightlife here from a bit under 18 already. So I was kind of used to some of the things. And I felt in a way that here at the Hanze, it was like just a higher version or an older version of high school that we experienced. It was very similar in the way the classes are taught here and the teachers are and the interaction in general. So it wasn't that much of a shift for me. But it depends, I think, on how your life is before that. Mm-hmm. If it's already introduced to some aspects of the student life.
Yeah. I do get it because I started my degree here during COVID. So even if I wanted to experience the nightlife and what it's like to be a student and my independence, I was like, oh, well, I'm not that independent because I have to stay home. You know, I didn't get to have the shock. But then, you know, you get a bit familiar with how, like, you find your way around the city in first year a little with the walks and whatever you could do. And then you go into second year and it's even more of a shock or I guess maybe more and less of a shock because now you have to meet the people that you've missed out on meeting the year before and catch up with all the social things that are happening. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely the shock I think can look very different. Yeah, not the same things are shocking to everyone in this experience.
Yeah, very true. Like of course for international there's like, especially I guess non-EU students, it's like a huge culture shock.
Yes.
Whereas like for you it's like you're from Groningen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for you it's like it's the same culture. So I think it really depends on the individual and their experiences. Yeah,
I agree. Mm-hmm.
So when Natasha and I were kind of brainstorming what our questions are about all this, we both noticed that Dutchies seem to start working very young. And because of that, they're very, very independent when they go into uni. And I love that. I wasn't necessarily very independent when I was in high school, more so when I moved out here and had to make a life for myself, you know, apart from my parents, apart from my siblings. It's when I really came into my own. But Dutchies seem to just go in, you know, they walk into uni the first day and they have it, or a lot of it sorted out, and they're just so confident in themselves. And Natasha and I were just very curious, like, how was your experience with that? Just, you know, getting your life sorted.
Well, I definitely didn't feel like I had my life sorted. By the time I started university, even at times I still don't feel like I have it all sorted.
And that's okay. Normalizing it.
Yeah, normalizing it. Yeah. But it is true. I think it also comes down to our culture here in the Netherlands. We are very individualistic. You are expected to put a lot of effort into your job and into your own career. And it starts young. You hear from your parents from a young age, like, what do you want to do? And of course, I think that is universal in a way. Of course, parents are involved in what you would like to become later. But maybe it is a bit more pushed to start early here and to become responsible with your finances in that way. Just because everyone is so, money oriented. I mean, the people in Belgium, they make jokes about us for being greedy.
Really?
Also in Thailand. Yeah. You made it all the way to Thailand.
Oh, love that for
us.
Not
just Belgium.
Oh, I actually never knew that. Oh, fun.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a running joke that the Dutch are greedy. It's also why we, of course, have the tikkie system.
Yes.
We were talking about it the previous episode. I love the tikkie. It's like, I think it's so great. It takes so... Anyway, we're not going to get into that again.
Watch episode 1 for that.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that's something I noticed as well, that like the Dutch do tend to start working very early on in their youth, as young as like 13, which is like flabbergasting for me. But just some facts for our audience. Research dictates that Dutch citizens can legally begin working at the age of 13, which is relatively early compared to other European countries. However, there are certain rules in place. So children under 13 cannot work except for things like community service or cultural performances, if I understand correctly. And for kids between 13 and 16, they can work outside school hours and during holidays, but only under strict rules. And then once they hit 16, they have more freedom to take on any kind of job that they like. And young people between 15 and 20 then get the minimum youth wage. Do these sound correct to you, Lila?
Yes,
yeah?
It does sound correct.
Okay, so now that we've had a little crash course in the employment in the Netherlands, Lila, can you explain to us, like, you mentioned that, you know, because it fosters financial independence as well. But is it pretty common then for like a lot of Dutch people that you know to start working as young as 13 or 14?
Well, 13, I haven't seen that often. Well, I actually don't recall seeing that at all, to be honest. I did know that it was that you could do something from your age of 13, but yeah, I don't know anyone personally who started from that young of age. But 14, Or yes, no, I do have a friend who started gardening from, I think, maybe 12, but I don't know. It was from a very young age, but it was in his own neighborhood and his neighbor, so it was a bit less official, I think. But what was it? The question?
No, it's
again?
all good.
Sorry.
So like from your circle or the people that you know, so you mentioned that you have a friend that started at 13.
Yes.
Is it pretty common then to start at around like 14, 15
Yes, it's really common.
Yeah.
I think almost everyone here, it's part of Dutch upbringing. You start at the supermarket, at the Albert Heijn. And when you turn 16, you finally get an upgrade and you can sit behind the counter as a cashier.
Okay.
Because you're not allowed to do that from 15.
Okay.
So that is why I knew that there were some regulations with that. But I think also what I wanted to say earlier about why the Dutch start working from a young age. I don't know, have you also gone with King's Day? Have you walked around and see the free market?
Yes.
You also see lots of children there
Yeah.
who are becoming their own salesmen from a young age. And yeah, it's something that it's just part of the Dutch culture in that way, to make money or to sell things. It's something that you are aware of from a young age. And I think all my friends started working from either 15 or 16, different kinds of jobs. But yeah, everyone, I think, has started working from that age. Is it not common in other countries? I'm not sure.
For me, it wasn't that you worked, you volunteered. So basically, as soon as you get into high school, you spend mostly your summers or really just any holiday that you have volunteering at like cultural events that are happening in your city. So I volunteered at a jazz festival where you're just there to like usher people in and like, yeah, your seat's like in the balcony and your seat's like, it's not grueling work or anything, but you do a lot of volunteering. So like I also worked as like I arranged teaching materials for an English school. Like you just do it for fun and then get a bit more into your community and establish basically just relationships and connections. But no, you don't get paid.
But I think that is nice though, because it teaches you to do it from a different type of motivation and not just for financial reasons only.
Yeah, and I'm particularly lucky. I'm from a town where there's a lot of festivals going on always. So like we have at least 3 big music festivals every summer, and they're not like the Coachella type of music festival. They're the like people middle-aged and up. So it's a very calm, like community-centered environment. So yeah, that's what's common where I'm from. What about you, Natasha?
I think in Thailand, like, yeah, I would say the average, well, so it really depends on like the family and everything, but I would say it's more common between maybe 16 to 18. And a lot of people even start working like after university. But yeah, I think also because Thailand is not a very, very expensive country to live in. So I guess you don't like really have to. But yeah, I think around like 16 maybe. So when I heard or when I like knew Dutchies that started from 13, that just, I'm still processing months later. So.
I'm not sure if it's that common though, because I barely know anyone who's really done a job from the age of 13. I mean, you don't see them in the supermarket or anywhere. You are not allowed to work there. I'm not sure where you are allowed to work, but like more...
Yeah, like
on
you
the
said,
sides,
gardening.
Yeah. Or like delivering newspapers or like back when newspapers was a thing. Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about the newspapers.
I just saw someone deliver a newspaper the other day. I was waiting for the train to go to the bus station at crazy o'clock in the morning, like 7 or something, and someone was like delivering newspapers, and I was telling my friend, like, is that what I think it is? Is this the lost art of newspapers? Yeah, it was really great. Anyway, tangent aside, I actually think that like you said, kind of the financial side of pushing people to work has another added bonus, which is that the Dutch are so good with their time management. This is what I think you should be famous for, to be very honest. Like the calendar system changed my life. And why I think it's also a plus for students is because, like you mentioned, there's always something going on if you're a student in Groningen. There's a party, there's drinks, there's a clothes shop, there's a clothes swap, sorry about that. There's pretty much always something going on. And they're usually part of student associations, right? Like they're, organized. It's not just people doing what they want. And that's not something I'm really used to. I think it's the same for you, Natasha. Like back home, there's no real study associations or organized groups of people that just hang out to be social together. How was your experience with that? Like you mentioned a bit earlier. If you can expand on it?
So my experience, I have been part of study associations, not necessarily student associations, because I think most of the Dutch people who are part of them do not grow up in the same city. They they go somewhere new, or international students as well. They can also be part of it, of course. But they need, or they want to meet new people. They are in a different foreign town, so that is the best way and quickest way to get new connections. And it's also a good connections to keep after studies oftentimes. And a lot of the social activities that you will have during your student time will be through the student associations. But for me personally, I came from here, and I do have a bit of a prejudice against some of the student associations that we have here. We had the oldest one in the Netherlands is here in Groningen, Vindicat, as you know. Which is also in the news quite often.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's great for people who enjoy it, of course, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, understandable. Very. One question. So what is the difference between a study association and a student association?
Oh, a study association is specifically for your studies, so you are able to engage with people who do the same study, and you can exchange summaries or other types of things that are connected specifically to your study, and it can help you within your career or some sort of other events that are set up specifically for that. A student association, it doesn't matter what you study. You can come either from HAVO, from Hanze, or from the university. Both are welcome. Or MBO maybe even now, because that is changing as well. I'm not too sure. But it doesn't matter what kind of study you do. It's just about having fun in a way, and creating a large network or a big platform for students to find each other and mingle socially.
Okay, so study associations are more like education oriented, or like career driven, whereas the student is more for socializing and for fun. And and you said that when you were young, you grew up watching these university students like wearing costumes and on a Wednesday night, like daytime, and like just bright. Yeah, and so do you think like now that you're part of this community, do you think that it lived up to your expectations when you were a child?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Although I haven't been part of that student association in that way. I still have had all sorts of experiences just by myself and my own friends. So, definitely it is a big playground for students. So, my expectations were met, I think.
Nice. Okay.
I also have a question about the people that you see in costumes. Why the costumes? I love it, but why? Like, it's such a culture to have costume parties.
Is it?
I think so.
I thought it was a universal thing. Everybody loves costumes, but no.
I mean, I think they're great, but I don't think I've ever seen it as often as I have here.
No, I mean, I saw it in the UK when I did my bachelor's, but definitely not as often as here, because you're like every day you go, it's like another day. It's like King's Day every day, but there's like a different day.
That's true.
It's like like fast food day, or like I don't know. There's just so many categories. It's so creative, but like is like you thought it was a universal thing, but do you know if there's a reason behind it, or?
Well, now I'm thinking about it. I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna analyze it now on the spot. And I think it is closely connected to the associations that they're in, and in a way, they show who they are part of, what kind of group they belong to by, going in public in those outfits. Not just for fun, of course, it will be connected to one sort of event that you have to dress up for. But then they can show that they are a group together in some way. I think maybe that's behind it, because there's not really much use except for that it's just fun.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but I mean, I love just walking around in the city and seeing like 3 bunnies on the street. It's like so fun. It's so fun.
It really is, yes. And the weather, like, it doesn't matter.
No.
Like, I mean, there's no bad weather. It's only bad clothes. I think the Dutch believe that.
And the bunny costume is always great clothes. What can you say about that?
Yeah. And I think you had a little fact for us, Daria.
I did. So in keeping with our newly established tradition of fact of the day, when researching this whole thing, I was looking at the type of exams that Dutch school children have to take. And, there's all your regular tests that you take throughout the year, but there's also a very Dutch-specific one, which is the cycling exam. So there's a national VWN practical traffic exam. I hope I pronounced that rightly. In which basically kids are just tested on their knowledge of the traffic rules and are, learned to, or are assessed on how they can apply it in real life situations. Did you have to take that, Lila?
Yes, definitely. Everyone has to take it. So it is, it is necessary. And it was a bit, not traumatic for me, but I just passed with the absolute maximum amount of mistakes I could have in the theoretical exam. But I was around, I think, 10 or 11 years old at that time. And then I had to take the practical exam, and I also made some mistakes there, but it was good enough at least. So yeah, everybody does it, but it's not taken that seriously, I think. At least at the age that I was at, it's just something that everybody's like, oh, cycling, of course. Okay, I will pass it. But people do fail, and people,
And what kind of knowledge do they assess?
It's just basic rules within traffic, or how to engage with cars or other pedestrians or cyclists, and what you have to show when you go to the right, for example. I'm not sure if you do it as well when you're on the bike.
Like, and you're signaling, right?
Yes, yes, with the hands. Well, it looks a bit silly maybe at first.
No, but here's the thing. When I was reading this, I was like, I should take this test. And not because I'm a bad cyclist, but because I need the confidence of having a diploma in cycling. Because when I first learned how to bike, I biked here for the first time. And so I couldn't actually signal. So you can imagine I was holding like the handles of my bike, and then I would just like prop my wrist like this, and you could just see the tops of my finger like signaling, and it was just the most pathetic thing ever.
No.
So I would love a diploma in cycling, to be honest. It's like the boost of confidence that I need.
Yeah, honestly, I respect that. It makes sense. Like, no wonder why the Dutch cycle the way that they do. But is it just once in your life? Is it just when you're like 11?
Just once. You have a theoretical exam and then a practical exam.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I would frame that next to my bachelor's. It's like my cycling exam.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I have it anywhere, or I don't even remember how it looked like, to be honest. It wasn't a big deal.
It wasn't like a proud achievement. Okay, it was just like something you had to do.
Yeah, it was more of a bit embarrassing if you didn't pass. But if you pass, it was like,
Of course you passed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay, very fair. And so, yes, keeping in line with like the Dutch word of the episode. So every episode we feature a Dutch word. And today, it's been my morning mantra, so I really hope I pronounced it correctly. Studentenvereniging. Okay, I hope I said that right. But the direct translation of the word is student association. And another segment that we're introducing is a rapid fire round. So this is where we'll just ask you 5 Groningen related questions that we would ask all of our guests. So it'll be things like your go-to study spot, where you feel fine when you dine, your favorite cafe, stuff like that. So are you ready, Lila?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So what is your go-to study spot in Groningen?
Okay, well, this is a bit boring, unfortunately, but I always go to the library, the university library.
The UB?
Yeah, the UB, yeah. That is just my place. I always go there. I wish I had a more interesting answer or nice cafe that I go to, but I don't. So
no, it's fair. It's depressing just enough that you can get your work done.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I don't need any distractions.
Yes.
I just need some pressure.
Yeah. And what is your favorite restaurant in the city?
Ooh. Okay, well, I may be a bit biased, but my sister has a lovely restaurant here in the city. It's Greek. It's called the Olijfboom, the olive tree.
I love it there.
So I'm just gonna
beautiful restaurant.
I had my graduation dinner actually with my parents. Yeah, when they all came to see me graduate, we all went for dinner there because we love it there. It's so great. Yeah,
it's on Oosterstraat, right?
Yes, it's the big one. The new one. It's not new anymore, but there are 2. Okay. You have cuisine and canteen. So one is more for quick bites. It's with the big tree as well, which is very beautiful, of course. And the other one is, if you want to have a full dining experience, it's nice to go to the old one. The small one.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And which cafe in the city would you say has the best vibes and best beverages?
I personally really like, I like beers, like specialty beers. So I enjoy going to the Pintelier. It's close to the Uurwerker. It's very small. I'm not sure if I should say because I don't want more people to come there. But it's really nice. Yeah, it's a good vibe. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, perfect. And what would you say is a must-see place for people who are just passing through the city?
Ooh. Okay, it depends. If you are here in August, by any chance, you have to go to Noorderzon.
Hell
you have
yeah.
to go to the festival and the food trucks that are now there. It used to be very different when I was young, by the way. I'm not sure if you know that, but now it's just food trucks mainly. And shows, of course. The music is very important. But one of my favorite things also to do is to go to Dots. And you have there, you have the planetarium, how you say it?
Yeah, planetarium.
Planetarium is
Yeah.
the same word. I'm not sure why I was confused about it. Yeah. I would definitely recommend going there.
Oh, that's great. And when you have to buy gifts for people, what's your go-to store?
Oh, I always go through the entire town hoping I find something that reminds me of the person. That is difficult. I don't really have a specific shop I always go to. Now I'm thinking about it.
Do you have like top 3 or like a street maybe or like a neighborhood or...
I do like, you do have specific gift shops. You have one in Volkingestraat, which is Cadeau, I think it's Cadeau or something it's called. It's really cute. You have nice postcards and all kinds of little, it's very, very broad. You have different things. And similar shop is also in het Koude Gat. It's at the Vismarkt. It's called Waar, which means where.
Where?
Yeah. I think those two are nice.
Okay.
And if you are a bit into spirituality, Yantra is also nice. You
I
can get
love Yantra.
stones there or tarot cards or whatever. I'm not sure if it's everyone's vibe, but if you do like stones, they have beautiful stones there.
They
and
really
minerals.
do. Yeah, the crystal collection
Yeah,
is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you know.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Lila, today.
course.
That was all from Natasha and I.
Thank you as
Thanks
well.
for your lovely insights on the Dutch education system. We really hope you had fun.
Yes, I did. I hope I was able to give some insight.
Oh, yes,
into it,
definitely.
for
I
sure.
think I leave this episode like knowing a lot more about the Dutch education
Yes.
system. So thank you for
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Perfect. It was my pleasure.
And to our audience, thanks so much for listening to us chat about the education system today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Yes. And once again, we're going Dutch, and this is the podcast for your degree in the Dutch. Doei!